Well, good morning, everybody. Oh, come on, let's try that again. You were just worshiping, right? So let's do good morning, everybody. Good morning. That's much, much better. I know that you guys have had coffee because I've refilled a couple of those pots already today, so I know that you're awake. So we're starting this series, and it's actually a one-week series, so you don't have to be in this for very long. It's called Deliver Us from Evil. It's really going to be a series or just a message today that I think some of us need to hear after this last week. Some of us, we get kind of confused about Halloween and kind of what happened there and really who our spiritual enemies are. Next week, we're starting a series called Thank You Notes. If any of you have ever watched like the late night show with Jimmy Fallon, where on Friday nights he does Thank You Notes. It's kind of based off of that, so kind of be excited for that. I'll be writing some stuff out, and it's going to be pretty good. Over the next 3 weeks after that, we're going to talk about contentment, thankfulness, provision, and being thankful for what God has done. Being thankful for the content, being thankful for the provision that he's given us, and really just accepting everything that he's given to us. Today, we're talking about vigilance. And some of you, as soon as I said that, your mind has kind of wandered to like vigilante. And that's okay, it's kind of close. But a vigilante, we're not going out and talking about Batman or Spider-Man or Superman, or maybe your mind kind of went to like the vigilante type of like, have you ever seen the Rock movie where he broke out the 4x4 and went and took over a casino or any of that stuff? We're not going that direction, okay? But that's kind of the type of thing that we need to be on alert for. That's what we kind of need to be looking for. We need to be always on alert, just kind of like how they are. A vigilante is always, when you think about Spider-Man or you think about Batman or you think about any of these cartoons, what are they doing? They're on the top of buildings looking over the city. They're looking out and they're going, what's going on out there? What can I do to help? They're always on alert to try and come help. The problem is we're not on alert to even try and take care of ourselves. A lot of times, we have just forgotten everything that's passing by us on the side. We pay attention to what's 6 inches in front of our face. And sometimes, not even then. Sometimes we're so buried in what we call technology that we've gotten. Have you seen the videos where people are like, and they've walked into fountains in the middle of the mall? Anybody seen this? I mean, literally walking along, or, they've gotten kicked in the face by a soccer ball while they're out there texting and their kids are having practice. And, these are things that happen. These are things that literally have gone on because we pay attention to what's 6 inches in front of our face rather than the whole grand scheme and everything that's going around. And we were told very clearly that we need to be on alert. We have to be looking at everything. We have to be on alert. If you don't have a Bible, or maybe you have your cell phone, open up to 1 Thessalonians 5:8. That's where we're 5. We're going to open up to 1. That'd be a good spot. This letter is one of Paul's first. So when Paul wrote this letter, I'll give you a little bit of history here, because Paul wrote this letter, and it's about 50-51, okay? So that's about when he wrote this letter. And this is the second stop when Paul was going, Paul leaves, and he goes on this tour, and he goes from city to city, and he goes from Galatia to, he gets into Thessalonica, and he gets there, and in the Bible it tells us he's only there for 3 Sabbaths. He's been there for 3 Sabbaths. That means 3 weeks. He's only been there for 3 weeks. And guess what they do? They look there and they go, dude, it's time for you to go. And they run him out of city. They run him out because what he does is he comes out and he says, Jesus is king. That's what he does. And they try to arrest him for treason. But he says, Jesus is king. And so after the 3 Sundays that he preached, now I'll tell you is that he was probably there longer than the 3 Sundays. He was probably there longer than that because they got to see how his life was. They got to see how he lived. So his chances are he was probably there from 3 weeks to like 3 months. They got to see what he looked like, how he lived, and what his life was about. But he was probably there, probably 90 days tops. And as he's living there, they get to see how he acts, and they finally go, we do want to hear you preach. We do want to see what you have to say. And so they listen to him for the 3 weeks, and that's pretty much when they go, now you got to go, because you said that Jesus is king, and the rulers came in. What happened is that as he's leaving, Paul had to leave lots of instructions. He had things that he needed to talk about still. He was like, I got to give you this stuff. You need this stuff. There's stuff that you haven't heard yet. I've got to give you this instruction. And so what he does is he gets back and he starts writing a letter. It's not like how we have email today, right? If somebody, we get a meeting cut short, I'll just email you later, I'll get you. He didn't have that luxury. He didn't have the ability to go, I'll just shoot you a text later. What he had to do is he actually sat down and he had to pen out a letter. And he writes this thing out, and you see how it's kind of broken down. In the first couple of chapters, what do we do when we write a letter? We give, hey, it was great being there. Thank you for all that you're doing. I love everything. Now, Some people call it a crap sandwich, right? You know, you're really nice on the outside, you get in the middle where the meat is, and that's really, that's where you just start shoving all that nasty stuff at them. You go, this is what you need to do here, you need to do this, you need to do this, and then you end it nice again. So that's what they, other people call it. There's a different word that people put inside of that, but I can't say that. But that's really what it is. We get it, we go nice, really mean, and then nice. And so this instruction, when you look at this, he goes in here and he goes, I've given you all this nice stuff. Now here, I want you to really listen to what I'm telling you. So if you look at this, and it goes, now brothers, about time and dates, we don't need to write to you. Now, the one thing they ask him, they go, when's Jesus coming back? When is he coming back? Because we ask that question too, right? We go, when's he coming back? We want to know. People, what's the guy down in Oakland that comes back and goes, oh, it's going to be on this date and this time. You remember this? People were selling their houses, moving across the country. And Paul he tells us right here, he goes, I don't need to write to you about that. For you know very well the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, so this day should not surprise you like a thief. He said, you believers, you're not in darkness. It shouldn't bother you at all. It doesn't matter what day he comes back. It doesn't matter if he comes back right now or if he comes back tomorrow. It doesn't matter when it happens because you are ready for it. You already believe. You're already saved. It's already coming. You don't have to worry about it. The people that are worried about it are the ones that are sitting there going, oh my God, what are we going to do? They're not saved. The people that are saved, they don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about when Jesus is coming back. You are all sons of the light and sons of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So then, let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be alert and self-controlled. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we belong to the day, let us be self-controlled on putting on faith and love as a breastplate and the hope of salvation as a helmet. For God did not appoint us to suffer wrath, but to receive salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ. He died for us so that whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just in fact as you are doing. Now, when you read this, and we're talking about spiritual warfare, when you read this, you got to remember something. You need to be alert. You have to be alert in spiritual warfare. You have to. You need to be alert. You need to start looking at it and going, what do I need to be paying attention to? What do I need to be doing? You need to be alert in spiritual warfare. Ephesians 6:12, it says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That's what it's against. Guess what, guys? We've done it all to us. Everything that's going on here, your enemy is not the person sitting next to you. It is the person, guys, the devil does not show up at your door like they did on Thursday or on Friday night, right? They don't show up wearing his little horns and red suit and comes up and he comes knocking on the door, trick or treat. No, he doesn't do that. He shows up like your buddy. He walks in and he goes, hey, what's up, dude? Let's go to the bar. And you go to the bar and then all of a sudden you go to the strip club afterwards. That's how he shows up. He shows up going, hey, this temptation. He shows up with all of a sudden you're in debt. Everything's going bad at your house. And guess what shows up in the mail? A pre-approved credit card. You're like, hey, I can spend more money to get out of debt. That's not how it works. That's how it shows up. It's called temptation. He shows up like that all the time. Think about it. If you're a recovering addict, what happens? He shows up at your door with a bag of dope. Hey, that's what happens. Over and over and over again. It's our job to be on alert for it, not just watching 6 inches in front of our face, but looking out and going, how do we prevent this? Obviously we have to change our friends and we have to change who we're hanging out with. That's how temptation keeps showing up. We have to make drastic changes. We have to be on alert. We have to have the walls up. It's got to be like a castle, right? It's the city on the hill. It's got the walls up and always looking. I can pull the gate back up in a hurry. I can pull the gate back up if I need to because I need to protect myself. I have to be on alert. I have to be paying attention. In the Bible, you look at it, it's vigilant. That's what he says. He says, keenly watchful to detect danger, ever awake and alert, sleeplessly watchful. That's the definition of it. And if you read it, if you go back and you look at the Greek, it's gregreo. It's I'm awake in the night. I'll watch, be watchful, alert, vigilant. That's how you look at it. You go, that's what it says. 12-step, here's a recovery quote, 12-step recovery quote. It says, we keep what we only have with vigilance. We keep what we only have with vigilance. Sobriety, you keep it with vigilance. You stay out of debt, you keep it with vigilance. You want a great marriage, you watch over it, you're alert about it, you know what's going on, you talk to your wife, you know all these things. These are things that we have to start looking at. How are we moving? How are we moving forward? What are we doing? And are we on alert? Not just right in front of our face. The stuff that's going on right here. You know what happens is if we're moving forward, people are going to be attacking us from behind, right? They're going to try and horse collar us. They're going to grab us by and they're going to try and pull us back. You're going to move forward and they're going to try and, all those people are going to try and grab you. And so what you have to do is you have to be strong enough to keep walking forward so that you can pull them out with you. Because that's what it's going to take sometimes. They're going to need to be pulled out of this whole mess that we've brought them into. Because, sometimes we are that light. We drag them out. That's what we do. But we cannot turn around and be like, all right, I'm going back. I want to be back into this mess. We have to be willing to help others grow and pull them out along with us. What it takes, though, one of these big things, and Paul tells us in the letter, he goes, in spiritual warfare, we need to be self-controlled. You have to have self-control. And now, when Paul wrote this letter, self-control wasn't a word. It didn't exist like that. It says self-controlled. And when we read this, when we read the NIV, it says, but since we belong to the day, let us be self-controlled, putting on faith and love as a breastplate and the hope of salvation as a helmet. That's, 5:8, 1 Thessalonians 5:8. Some versions translate it and have self-controlled as sober. Now think about this. Are they referring to sober? Do you think that they're referring to sober as being sober or being a drunk or whatever? Do you think that they're referring to it? Because I can tell you right now, when you read the definition, it's nephu. And it says to properly be sober, not drunk, not intoxicated, free from illusion. Free from illusion. This is a big word here. Free from illusion. How many things have we had that we're under illusion of? That we continue to look at. We go, man, what is this? From intoxicating influences of sin. This is the word that he's referring to. But even if you go back the other way and you go, you look at self-control. Anybody in here ever been to a bar or been intoxicated? Anybody? I'll raise my hand. I have. Anybody? How under control were you? How much were you looking at and you go, man, I would absolutely love to give my vows to somebody right now. It's actually against the law. You can't marry somebody who's drunk. You know why? Because you're not in control. You're not in control. That's the reason why you go up there and they go, have you been drinking tonight? Yes. They go, oh, see you later. You can't get married. There's a reason, because you don't have control. How many of you, you start looking at it, you do things that you would never do sober. Some of you're thinking about this, you're going, oh yeah, I went out the last time, I was out dancing. If you know me, I don't dance. I don't, because it's bad. It is. Maybe some of you became that I love you guy or girl. I love you, man. I love you. And it's like all day long. It's over and over and over again. I love you. And you're like, dude. Okay. You're talking to a beer bottle, right, man? Maybe you could just throw the elbow into the person you're sitting next to and go, yeah, I got together with this person sitting here next to me while I was intoxicated. And we're making the best out of this, and we're trying to grow it. But that's what happens. That's the things that we sometimes do that we would never, ever do sober, right? We need to have self-control, self-discipline, self-restraint. Start thinking about these things. Willpower, tactfulness. You start hearing all these different things and you start going, where is it that we have these things? If we're starting to talk about what sort of war we're in and what's spiritual warfare, look at it. How much self-control do you have? Because under spiritual warfare, you're going to get attacked over and over and over again. It's going to come from all different directions. Usually it comes in the form of money. Because guess what we do? We do things for money that just don't make any sense. We get money and all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do these things, or we buy things that are just completely out of control for us. We just do things that should have never happened because we got a little bit of money. Or we take a job that we're not supposed to have because of a little bit of money. Or just think about it. You lie on your resume in order to get a little more money. You do these things happen all the time. Trust me, talk to a recruiter. They go through it. They look at your resume and they go, oh, that one's full of lies. Oh, that one's full of lies. I hear her over there laughing. There's a recruiter in the room. She's like, yep, that's what it is. And that's what happens. We do things for money. Things that we would never, ever, you wouldn't lie to your best friend and be like, oh yeah, I took my company from being 580th in company all the way to number 1 in 3 hours. And that's what happens. That's what people put on their resumes sometimes. You wouldn't do that. One of the other things that we need to start doing is in spiritual warfare, we need to be part of an army. We need to be part of an army. There's no way that we can go out and we can continue to do this on our own. And now if you're local here, we can say you need to be part of the Air Force, you need to be part of the Navy. It doesn't matter. But you need to be part of a group of people. You need to be part of a group that is coming together and going off and fighting the same war that you are fighting. The problem is we get to this point where we start going into battle and we try to do it all on our own. We try and do it with 1 or 2 people. Guys, Jesus had 12. He had 3 that were really close to him, but he had 12 people that stood by him all the time. That is what we call a small group here. How many of you, I look around the room and I go, how many of you are part of a small group? The 12 hands. There's 80 people in here. 12 hands went up. What are we thinking? You're out of 12 out of 80, that means that almost 20% only 20% of you go into battle with an army with you. The rest, you're trying to do life all on your own, and you're struggling, and you're going, why is this happening? Why don't I have people supporting? Why don't I have people helping lift me up? Because you're not talking to anybody. You're part of your own. You're the general and the soldier in your army. It's time to start changing things. It's time to start being part of a group and start finding people that you... And guys, groups are getting ready to end here, so this is not about, hey, let's start signing up with groups, but you need to start getting involved. Once we get through the holidays, guys, guess what? Do you know what happens right now? The next 6 weeks, the highest suicide rates all year long the next 6 weeks. Do you know why? Because people are lonely. They're lonely. Because everybody's talking about, oh, we're going to go home for family. We're going to go do this. I'm going to go spend time with my friends. I'm going to go spend time with this person and that person. Well, guess what? If you don't have those people, what are you going to do? And all you hear is about, I'm going to go spend time with this and this person and this person. You get very, very depressed. And imagine people that are already depressed. They're not part of a group. They don't have a support system. They don't have people help lifting them up. It becomes 10 times worse over the next 6 weeks. And they sit there and go, why am I even here? Why do I continue to do this? And all of a sudden, it's over. They make a permanent decision for a temporary situation. That's what happens. It's our job to help lift one another up, to help grow one another, to help bring everybody in. Paul is amazing when he comes out with this. He says, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Every believer has something to contribute. Every believer has something to contribute to the other members of Christ. Every believer. You go, oh, I don't have anything, or I can't do this. Every believer has something to contribute. Every one of us. Guys, think about it. We are all part of the body, the hands and feet. And they tell us, your finger, guess what? You can do a lot with your finger, right? You have something to contribute. Sometimes you smash it with a hammer when you're working on stuff. But every one of us, we have something to contribute. Every part of the body. I've seen people that don't have fingers use their toes to hammer stuff in. Everybody can contribute. You can just do it different ways. So think about you. What are you contributing? What are you giving? And Paul says all of us can do it. All of us have something to give. Whether it's relationship, whether it's being able to help build something, whatever it is, we all have this ability. All of us are part of the body. This verse also tells us to help other believers. Paul's telling us, just as you are doing it now. He can also read it as this. You are doing this, right? It could be read like that. You are doing this, right? It's like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're doing it, right? That's how it could be read. Because that's exactly what he means. You are doing this. You say you're a believer, but you don't help others. You say you're a believer. You just sit at home on your smartphone, watching TV, and you never have interactions. You never do anything. Your life is there. When you could be helping build other people up. You could be helping other people grow. Anybody ever really help somebody? like really, really help somebody. Help grow somebody from being like down in the gutter to where they're a productive member of society. There's things that happen. You can help people go from being in the gutter to being part of the army. It happens. They can go from being at the bottom all the way up. It is a great feeling. It is an amazing feeling. It's amazing to be able to take somebody from so low and help us grow them into part of this army. It's amazing. It makes you want to do it more. Anybody in here ever been bowling? Anybody? You gone bowling? Anybody ever done the night bowling with your kids? Where they put out the bumpers on the side? So guess what happens? As you go to the bowling alley and they put out those bumpers on the side, and guess what happens? It prevents the kids from falling into the gutter, right? It makes the ball where they always hit a pin. And that's what we do as parents. We prevent the ball from going in the gutter. And we prevent our children from going in the gutter. But when they turn 18, we kind of step back a little bit and we go, yeah, it's almost time for you to make that decision on your own. And we start to deflate the bumpers a little bit. And then they turn 21 and they're almost flat, and then they turn 25 and then they're gone. We take them away. They're just gone. You're like, oh, yep, do it on your own. See you when you move back. And that's what happens, right? Isn't that what goes on? But now, every once in a while, you get somebody who's like me, who goes bowling, and they throw the ball a little hard. So hard that when it hits the gutter, it just comes bouncing right back out. And it ends up at 2 lanes over. And so what happens is that, but those are very, very few, that where the ball goes into the gutter, it comes back out on its own. It doesn't happen a lot. Usually, it ends up in the gutter and it just rolls down and it ends up all the way back at the turnstile that's going to reset the pins. That's what happens. Every once in a while, it might hit a rock in there or a bad part of the lane and kicks it back out. But for the most part, it goes down there unless somebody else helps it out. It's our job to help get people out of that. Being part of an army helps us get people out of that gutter. It helps us grow them. It helps us get them from everything that they're doing. It helps us bring them back on the right track. But we can't just keep being the protector, or I want to put these bumpers up. No, sometimes people are going to end up in the gutter, and because that's, guess what? Where we find who? We find God usually in the gutter. We look up there and we go, I found you. But it takes somebody just like one of us. When we do this restoration project, it's going to take one of us to be able to pray for somebody and go, look, it's changed right now. You can make the decision. It's not about just going out and feeding and giving, here, let me give you some food and just enable you to get there and to give prayer and to go, I want to help you grow. I want to love on you. I don't want to get you out of this situation. I'm only enabling you for me to be able to talk to you, for me to be able to give this life-giving message, for me to be able to go, there is a different way to go. That's why we do this. We're not putting up the bumper guards going, oh, we're just going to save them. But this is being part of an army. How many of us are doing life on our own where we're not part of this army? It just bounces in the gutter and it just stays there because we don't have anybody with us to help get us out. We don't have anybody there that's, when something's going wrong, it's like, who do I call? Nobody. You have a cell phone for really no reason to be able to play on Facebook for your fake friends, your Facebook friends. Instead of your real friends, that you pick up the phone and actually call and say, hey, this is what's going on. I need some help. When has that happened? Start thinking about it. Some people have 300-400 Facebook friends. Nobody, but the phone never rings, ever. Why? Because they're Facebook friends. They're not real friends. They're not people that are going to help you grow. They're not there to help you get out of the situation. They're not there to help you get through life. Talk to some people that are part of groups here. Talk to the people that were in my group 2.5 years ago. You sit down and you talk with them and they go, oh yeah, that group, our best friends, we came together and we started a church together. We did life together. We talked all the time. That's what groups are about. That's what doing life together is about. A group of about 10, 12 people, somebody you know that you can count on. Yeah, you might have one that's a Judas that ends up turning their back on you, but that's all right. There's 11 others that are there and they're going to be with you through thick and thin. Man, wouldn't that be great? Isn't that something that would be awesome? And you sit there and you go, yeah, that would be great. And why are you so afraid to get into groups? And then you go out there, you sign up for one, and you go, oh, yeah, it's going to be so amazing. I'm going to be part of a group. And then you never, ever show up. Guys, make it a priority to start doing life with other people. Make it a priority to be part of this army. Make it a priority to be here. Guys, look at this army. Mike last week talked about it. He talked about being part. This is the huddle right here. Guess what? We're getting ready to go out and we're getting ready to go fight because that's what we're going out. Right now, It's kind of safe in here, right? We don't have to worry about spiritual enemies coming in here on us right now. We got a whole collection of us that are fighting against it. But as soon as we walk out of that door, it's you and your family in the car. Instead of a whole group of believers, it's just a small group. And it's easier to attack. And then you go to work in the morning, it's even easier to attack. You need that group of supporters to be there all the time. So as soon as you walk out, you're fighting the battle immediately. Right as soon as you walk out the door. Why is it that you go, I want to do it all by myself? Doing life is hard. You guys know that in Genesis, God created us to do life with Him. He created us to do life with Him. He said, I want to spend time with you. I want to be here. He was in the garden with us. He showed up and He was like, I want to hang out. I want to do life with you. And it was us that separated it. And now it's our job to get back together and try and do life with one another so we can do life with Him instead of being under attack all the time. What are we doing? How alert are we being? Because you can't keep watch 24 hours a day. What do they do in the military? While I'm sleeping, somebody else is keeping watch. Somebody else is looking out for me. Because guess what? We all have to sleep. We all need rest. But we all need people watching. We all need people watching. It's time to start doing life with in an army or an Air Force or a Navy, whatever you want to call it. But it's time for us to get and start doing life instead of doing it on our own and going, I'm going to survive. Because if you've done it on your own, you know you don't survive. You know. It's time to make some changes. And it can start right now. You can go, I'm going to make a change right now. As soon as I walk out of here, life is going to be different. The ball is in your court. Nobody can force you to do anything, just like nobody can force you to have a relationship with God. You have to make that decision. You have to make the decision to be part of a group. You have to make the decision to do life with other people. It's in your hands. He gave you choice. He gave you free will. What are you doing with it? Are you part of the army? Are you trying to be delivered from evil? Or do you just like riding right in its presence all the time? Is that what you want? You just want to live in the presence of evil because you got to sleep and the dreams come in. You've got friends that aren't the best friends, and they just come in and it just attacks you over and over and over again. And we're not very alert, and most of the time, we're not even self-controlled. We can change all of it right now and go, I want to make a commitment to do life different. I want to make a commitment to do life the way that God asked me to do. He breathed this word into Paul so that they could breathe it into us. He breathed the word into Paul and said, this is the instruction, this is the inspired word I want you to give. It's time for us to take it and run with it. And go, this is how we're going to change. This is how we're going to be delivered through the spiritual warfare. This is how we're going to be delivered from evil. It starts right now. Maybe you just don't even have a relationship. You're like, I like writing in this. Maybe you don't even have a relationship with God. And that can change right now too. It's in your hands. It's in your ball court. It's in whatever you want to call it. But we can change it right now. Let's pray. Father, I want to change this. I'm tired of living in this where I'm not alert. I don't have any self-control, and I'm not really part of an army. I'm just doing life on my own, and I'm ready to change it. I'm ready to do life differently. I'm ready to start following the plan that you've laid out for me. I'm ready for you to wash over and just say, it's time for us to move forward and forget everything in the past and start doing it differently from this point forward. God, I know that you can forgive those sins. You can forgive my past. You can forgive the past transgressions, and it happens right now. All I have to do is say, I believe. I believe that your son died for me while I was not worthy. He died. He spilled his blood so that I could be washed clean. God, that's simple prayer. So that I can be forgiven, so that I can live with you, so that I can have everlasting life, so I can be part of your army. That simple prayer is a change and a lasting for eternity, forever. Sometimes we need to recommit ourselves. And we say the same thing as, God, I've faltered, and I'm ready to come back home. I'm ready to start following the plan that you've laid out for my life. I've made some mistakes, but God, I'm ready to love. I'm ready to help. I'm ready to pour out. You tell us that we're promised new life. Some of us, we need that new life. We need it right now. We need the old to be washed away. We need we need your Son's blood to wash away all the past, the hurts, so we can move forward in new life. God, guide us and lead us and help direct us towards that. But wash me clean, please. If you'll keep your heads down, if you prayed that with me right now, if you just prayed that you're ready to start moving forward with God and start doing life with Him, can you put a hand up? Just say, God, I'm ready to start moving forward with you. I'm ready to start doing life the way that you've asked me to do life. I'm ready to start moving forward and being part of an army, your army, to do life with you. You can put your hands down. God, thank you. We are so excited. I know that you're at the gates right now. You're looking at it and going, my son has returned. My daughter has returned. I know that